There is a guy named Mahmoud Khalil. He is a Syrian-born Palestinian who is a green card, and there's several different green cards you can have. So there's several different green cards you can have, and he was taken into custody because of the new no anti-Semitism on campus, because of all these ridiculous things we've seen as far as protest goes. And by the way, I don't care if you protest, but as somebody who found out a couple years ago I'm Jewish, let me tell you something now, you better watch out. But I don't care that you protest. I don't care that you are full of disdain and hate. But when you threaten people and or you break stuff and do certain things, we recognize there's a limit to certain things. They took this guy into custody, and there's a lot of noise out there, turning him into the next martyr out there for the cause. And I'm here to say, I'm probably going to say some stuff that's going to piss you guys off.
Calls continue to ring out for the release of pro-Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil. This after a federal judge has now blocked his deportation. Over the weekend, he was arrested by federal immigration authorities and then flown to an immigration jail in Louisiana. Now, he is a grad student here at Columbia. He's also a green card holder and is set to wrap up his studies in May and will go before a judge at the federal courthouse as his future in this country now weighs in the balance.
And Chris and I were talking about it. As a free speech absolutist, the only protected speech is the speech that is essentially deemed as hate, because really, that's it. That's according to the Supreme Court. He needs due process. I don't have to like what he has to say. I don't have to agree with what he has to say. I vehemently disagree with so much of what he has to say and the way he's gone about doing it. But due process is important. He's not been charged with anything. He was taken from New York to Louisiana. His lawyer and his wife didn't even know where he was. And I know a lot of people are like, good, get rid of him. That's not how we do stuff. We don't snatch people off the street and say, oh, we're just going to get rid of you. And apparently, from what I understand from 3 or 4 of reporters that I've talked to, they've said they thought he was only here on a student visa, so it would be easy. Then they found out, no, he's a green card, permanent resident. So that changed it, but they still took him anyways. And the thought of just, well, you can just get rid of him. We can't, nor should we. Nor should we do that. Let's give him due process, because without the due process, without the opportunity for him to have his say in court and just to get rid of people, that is not good. Is that what we're going to do for everything? Hell no, I don't want that. I don't think anybody wants that. Because remember, at some point in time, you may not be the person in power. The other side might be in power, and then what happens? We've got to follow the rules and the law. That's what separates us from all those things we talk about that we don't want to become. We have to do that. And so they just can't get rid of him based on that. Now, what he said, I don't know, because I'm hearing so many conflicting things. Columbia already looked into it originally, and they said, nah, he didn't say any of those things, because they had suspended him. And they said, no, he didn't do any of that stuff. He was a spokesperson for a sympathizer for Hamas. Okay, let's find out if that's what he was. And if they're a known terrorist organization, there you go. That's one. Let's find out if he was part of the disruption on campus, threatening Jews, anti-Semitism. Put it out there so he has a right to defend himself, but it all comes out. Because what you end up doing is you turn him into a martyr, and you make it a bigger deal than it should be. And if you go and you do it wrong, then you got egg on your face. And let's be real, kids, none of us want egg on the face.
Does Marco Rubio have the power to revoke a person's green card or legal status?
So under the immigration laws, there are extreme circumstances where someone's status can be reconsidered if they are aligned with, for example, a terrorist organization or an organization that's been designated a terrorist organization. It is not the case here that Mr. Khalil, that there's any evidence that he is aligned with a terrorist organization or is part of a terrorist organization. So this sort of goes back to the question of due process. Like, yes, statuses can be revoked, but typically when that happens, there's an entire legal process that is followed. And what is surprising here, alarming even, is that This is essentially the kind of strongman move that you've seen in other places where democracy has literally crumbled, places like Pinochet's Chile and things of that nature. This is not typically what we see in the United States, even in circumstances where we've had individuals whose statuses have been reconsidered and revoked.
Ron, you had Tom Homan.
And somebody said, well, he's illegal. He's not illegal. Secondly, and somebody said, what is the status of the green card? There are several different green cards. The one he has is permanent resident. So he has almost the same rights as a U.S. citizen. So because of that, that is the due process. If it was just a student visa, you can get him gone. You could revoke the visa and get him. But it's not just the student visa. It is a green card. Is a permanent green card, a permanent resident. He's married to an American citizen, and you should want the due process. You should absolutely want it. Because without it is important that we do it the right way. Because if all of the things are true, he was a spokesperson for this group, he was doing the negotiation. First of all, one of the other things is, this is a side note, hey, colleges, stop letting these brats have their way. Okay? Stop giving them a seat at the table as if they're the adults. Stop it. It's not helping you at all when they think they're equal to you. It's like parents who let kids talk to them and use their first name. Well, Steve, it's dad to you. We're not equal. But free speech is an important part. All of the things that we have, right? And I tell this to my friends on the left who are always a big supporter of crushing free speech. All the things that you like, whether it's, women's rights for voting or the civil rights movement or marriage equality or any of that stuff, those things came because of free speech. You can't take it away. It's important. And it's also important, as Bill and I always talk about, it's always important, too, to know where crazy is. That's why you never want to shut crazy down. But the process is the thing that matters here. It's not about what he said. It's the process that is important. And you got to follow the process. As much as you and I may sit there and go, I don't like what he said. You know what? I don't like what the Klan says. I don't like what a bunch of racist nut jobs say. I don't like a lot of things out there that people say. I don't like that people come out there and criticize ABBA. When you can't do that. What the hell are you people thinking? That being said, all of them will deserve to go to jail. All of them. We're deporting them. Not to Sweden, though. Somewhere awful. Norway. But you have the right to say it. I tell everybody, I will never, ever stop you having the right to criticize me. Call me horrible names. I don't care as long as you don't threaten my life or take over, a facility when I'm in it. Feel free to knock yourself out if I'm not. But it's about having that opportunity. And then if you've done something wrong, let the system sort it out. And that's what the judge says. You don't have a right, Rubio, or anybody else, to take this guy's visa away from him and green card. You don't have that right. That's a judge's right to do so. And no, it's not him. He was not supposed to be deported 11 years ago. Somebody asked that question. Scott Jennings and Ann Navarro got into it.
Here's the problem. Tonight we're talking about this particular case. But the statute you quoted, it's an obscure statute, old statute that's being used, is about being against U.S. foreign policy, right? So, for example, when I was part of protests in Miami, when the Clinton administration and Janet Reno returned Elian Gonzalez to Cuba, is that...
Were you trying to eradicate Western civilization?
No, I was trying to stop the U.S. government, and I was protesting against what the U.S. government had done.
Were you occupying buildings?
I was protesting.
Were you fomenting violence?
I was doing what that...
Were you inciting others to engage in violence?
I was doing what that statute said.
Were you chasing
I was
people
against
around?
U.S. foreign policy.
Were you intimidating people?
Okay, we were shutting down streets. We were shutting down buildings. We were doing all sorts of...
But this is where it's different. You were shutting down streets. You were pissed and angry because they were getting, they were taking Elian Gonzalez and sending him back, right? But you weren't going and saying you hate the Western culture, you hate this, that, and the other. You were working with the Cuban government potentially to spread disinformation and evil here. You weren't trying to do any of those things. You weren't taking over government facilities or buildings. You weren't, threatening anybody who didn't support Cuba. That's what they're accusing him of. And you've got to prove that. And you do that through the due process. And you can't hold somebody indefinitely. And I think right now they're trying to figure out what the hell do we do with this guy? Because we haven't charged him. And because we haven't charged him, what are you going to charge him with? You better find something out. And I know he was at another college this week. And here's the other thing. He's at a college where some people are handing out stuff. Does that mean he handed it out? I don't know. I wasn't there. Right? I wasn't. It was a woman's college too, which you guys know about the women, right? Like they just, God bless you, but the liberal women, you guys really, you need to come to Jesus moment. So we're going to see, but I'm a free speech guy, but I'm also a due process guy. And this isn't about what he said. This is about the process at this moment in time. Everything else will play out. But if you don't follow the process, that's not a good look.